Hello everybody, Roger here again. I'm standing out here on Malcolm Island in Rough Bay. That's the charted name for this area, but the Finnish name for this place is Koltilahti, which means home bay. And we're going to explore the other side of the bay, over that way, which is called Bere, which means the end of the bay. And I might make my way out to Bere Point and talk about that. Just getting a shot of Rough Bay, or Koltilahti in Finnish. When the tide goes out, you can see it's high tide right now, but during low tide, this is all a big mud flat in here. And I'll come back again sometime in the future, and we'll walk the mud flats. On a low enough tide, you could walk right across the bay to the other side. So, on the other far side of the bay is called Bere, which means the end of the bay. And we're looking towards Piggy Point, or Sikkanimi in Finnish, which means Pig Point. You'll have to check out this monument, and it's dedicated to those lost at sea that were from here in Sontala. And the anchor was donated by Captain Jim Erickson and the crew of the North Isle, and it was brought up in the trawl net off of Estevan Point in 1989. The anchor is dated to 1750 to 1800, and it's a pretty cool addition to our harbor. Now, as you're heading down First Street, as you're heading into Rough Bay, past the marina, you're going to cross a creek. And the Finnish name for the creek is Vuolalajapero. I hope I didn't mispronounce that one. Vuolalajapero. And it means a fast-flowing creek. So I'm just walking down First Street here, and I'm gonna walk up to the creek and show you. Here's the Vuolalajapero. I hope I didn't butcher the pronunciation of that one. Looking out Koltilahti towards Sikkanimi, or Piggy Point, and Bere, the end of the bay. Vuolalajapero. And we'll go on this side, and it's this beautiful, beautiful marshy area. And this is a fish-bearing creek, so in the fall you can see the occasional salmon going up the creek here. I'm not going to walk around in here too much. Ducks love it in here, so in late winter you could sometimes find mallard feathers, the green feathers, in here on occasion. At one time, there was a boathouse here that belonged to my great-grandfather, Herman Potu. And all that's left of it are these pilings here, these creosotes. But the old Potu homestead still exists and is just down the road from here. So this house in behind me here, it was built by my great-grandfather Herman Potu in around 1902. And he raised 8 children there, the first of which was my grandfather, Mikko Toivo Potu, or Michael Polton. And he was the first baby boy born to the Finnish settlers here on Malkasaari, Malcolm Island, here in Sointala. And so that makes me 4th generation of the original Finnish settlers. And this house here was where it all began, here in Sointala. So this is what the Potu farm looks like today. And this whole area belonged to my great-grandparents Herman and Olga Potu. And this is where it all began for my family here in Sointala over 100 years ago. And these buildings you see here are original buildings and still standing after 120 years. And they were built by my ancestors, and they would have used the wood that they felled from the trees on the property when they were clearing the land to make this farm to build those little buildings. So it's really neat that they still stand. Now, when I was growing up here in Sointala, this junction was called the T because it's shaped, as you can see, as a giant capital T. But in recent years, there's been an addition road here going down to the beach. And there's actually a private residence down this road. You could go down as far as the gate. Now, we came from there, and we're now on the logging roads. And going down this direction, you'll get to Bere Point. And going down that way, we'll get to Big Lake. Right now, we're going to go down and check out Bere Point. So this is the junction from the main logging road that takes you down to Bere Point, and the beautiful Bay Trail. And if I were to go that way, it would take us to the lighthouse. And we're not going to go take a look at the lighthouse today. We'll do that on a different day. But today, we'll go take a look at Bere Point. And you can see my truck gets pretty dirty every time it comes out to the logging roads. There's this split in the road here. One way takes you down and the other way brings you back up. And there's lots of potholes, so take your time going down here. There's no need to rush. And here we are at Bere Point Campground. It's now a regional park, but when I was growing up as a kid, it was just an old logging road that went down to the beach, and the locals turned it into a bunch of campsites. Now it's a regional campground, and during the on-season it gets pretty busy. Bere Point is a bunch of campsites just off of the main road, which was a logging road, and just a short walk down to the beach across the road. And there's a lot of neat little access points down to the beach. And this is the north side of Malcolm Malcolm Island, also called the North Shore, or Pohjois-Ranta in Finnish, which means the North Shore. And I'm looking back down towards what's called Shields Bay, and it's named after the Shields family, who are locals that still live in Sointala, and they once logged that area in the 1950s. And we'll explore Shields Bay in a future video. Now that first point, the dark one there, oops, right there, in Finnish, there's a couple different names for that place. In English, it's Black Bluff. In Finnish, there's two names. There's Savimäki, which means clay hill, or Mustajorka, which means black steep. So like a steep black area. And I'm not sure why. I'm guessing because the soil might be a blackish color. And then you probably can't see it too well, so I'm going to zoom in. So the first point there, whoops, right there, let it focus in. So that first point is Black Bluff. That next one just past Black Bluff, you could just see it creeping out behind Black Bluff there. That is Boulder Point, and it's got a couple names in Finnish. Poltterinimi, which means Boulder Point, or Kivi-nimi, which means Rock Point. And then that far point, way off in the distance, right off into the horizon, that is Lizard Point. And it's also got a couple different names. So the direct English or Finnish to English name for that point would be Liskonimi, which is named after a lizard point. And the other name is Tuulanimi, which means windy point, because this is one of the windier parts of the island. And you're looking off, here I'll zoom back out. And you're looking off towards the mainland of North America, the coastal mountain range. And down this direction, way off in the distance, around that bend there, is Bere Point. And in Finnish, it's called Pohjois-Niemi, which means Bere Point, but it's spelt differently. It's spelled B-E-R-E, and I believe that's someone's name. I don't know how Bere Point got that name, but the Finnish translation, Pohjois-Niemi, would be bear, as in like a bear behind, B-A-R-E. Now we're heading into the busy season here now, so that's why I'm making this video real quick about Bere Point before it gets too busy here. It's already starting to get packed. It's the May long weekend. So there's a lot of people staying here, but I want to get you some shots of what it looks like when you come to the North Shore, Pohjois-Ranta, of Malcolm Island. So here we have a map of the area and the beautiful Bay Trail, which was put in the 1990s just after I graduated from high school. So over here is Bere Point, which is Paljasniemi in Finnish, which means Bere Point. And we are currently at the trailhead. I'll take a short walk down the trail just to show you the view from Bere Point, but I'm not going to follow the whole length of the trail. I'll do that in a future video. But as we go along here, you'll get to the middle, the halfway point, and it's called Puoliväli, which means halfway in Finnish. And in that area, there you can see this little creek that empties there. They used to pan for gold. And the reason why they call this beautiful bay is because the Finnish name for this is Kaunoniemen Lahti, this place, which means Beautiful Points Bay. To shorten it down is Beautiful Bay. And Beautiful Point is this far point over here, Malcolm Point, which is Kaunisniemi in Finnish. So I'll just take a short walk down the trail here until we get to Bere Point. And it's a neat little corridor, at least this beginning portion of the trail going through the Salau. But as you continue on down the trail, you're walking in the forest. And again, I'm not going to follow the whole trail today. I'm just going to go as far as Bere Point and maybe walk the beach back. And here we're coming up to the viewing platform. So you get a nice view from here to see the ocean and watch whales. This is actually a famous whale rubbing beach where the killer whales come and rub on the gravel just off the beach here. And I'll take a short walk around the beach on my way back to the truck. And here we are, northern shore of Melkasaari Malcolm Island, Pohjois-Granta. And that point there is Malcolm Point, or Malcolm Karki, also known as Kaunisniemi in Finnish. And you're looking back, this bay here was Kaunoniemen Lahti, which means Beautiful Points Bay. And you can see how the waves just hit and crash the beach here, and it just eats away the island. On this side of the island. If I go down to where the water is hitting right now, the rocks up there are above my head. As you can see, the rocks are above my head and the water is crashing in at my feet. Woo! You can hear as the waves are coming in, the rolling of the rocks. And just as I get around the point, you could hear the waves are starting to calm down, and it's not as loud and noisy as it was back there. So I don't know why I'm still shouting. And again, you're looking back at Shields Bay. And this is Bere Point, Paljasniemi. Now there's a lot of tourists that come to Bere Point, so you don't often find shells as much as you used to, but these are common shells that you'll find when you're venturing on the beaches here on the north shores of Malcasari, Island. And I'm approaching the campground. You can hear how quiet the water's getting as I get further and further away from Bere Point. And this is a memorial for people local people from Malcolm Island who have died over the years. So I'm just gonna carry on with my journey along the logging roads, following Malcasari, Island back home into town in Sointala. So I'll check out a couple other spots before I finish this video. So let's go take a look at some other spots on Malcasari, Island. So we're back at the T here. If I were to go to my right, that would take me back to the downtown Sointala, but through Rough Bay. Instead, we're gonna go further down the logging roads here and go straight ahead, which is gonna take us to Big Lake. So let's go take a look at Big Lake. So I'm on the main logging road on the way to Big Lake, and there's this little detour trail that goes off of the side of the road, and if you drive by, you're not looking, you can easily pass it, but it goes to somewhere really neat, and I'm gonna go take you there. So let's go see what's down this trail. And it's a very short hike to get in. And if you're visiting Malcolm Island, you'll probably need a local to show you this spot. All right, it's a little grown in with salal here, so I'm gonna have to duck to crawl through this last little stretch to get to where I wanna go. You can see now why they call this the nuisance berry bush in Finnish. It's like almost like a rat tunnel. Luckily, it's not very far. It was just that little stretch. And here we are. It opens up into a second growth forest that was logged a long time ago. Off to my right, though, you can see there's a recent clear cutting. And there's this well-marked trail leading up to this really neat feature in the forest that we're going to go visit. Now we're coming up to what I want to show you here. Here we have an enormous red cedar tree still living here on Malcasari, Malcolm Island. Now, the base of this tree is just enormous. I don't have my gimbal with me to get some really great shots, but I will be sure to come back and revisit this site again. Now when you visit this tree, you don't want to climb on it. You can see people have been climbing on it and the bark's starting to wear off around the roots. But you can see she's just absolutely enormous. Just a shot of me for posterity in front of this beautiful ancient tree on Malcasari, Malcolm Island. Just take a walk around the tree here. Now, unfortunately, a couple years ago, some kids came in and did some graffiti on some of the trees here. Also, if you're looking, you could see some ancient windfalls or signs of previous logging, the first logging on the island. This is a pretty big tree. So there is one slab on the back side of the tree that is dead. And if you look here, this is a CMT, or a culturally modified tree, where the natives would have came with stone tools and cut a slab off this. Unfortunately, again, in recent times, someone came with a knife and scratched away at it here, doing some damage. And you can see, though, not that deep under the surface of the wood, and it's still in really great shape. Cedar takes a very long time to rot, and because this is still a living tree, she hopefully will be standing for a very long time. So we're approaching Big Lake, which is just down that way a little ways along the logging roads. I'm just gonna climb up the hill here because I want to show you something. When I was a teenager, this was the road to get down to Big Lake. And this did not exist, but this is now the modern road. And this is all blocked off with this big mound of gravel that I'm currently standing on. Now, Malcolm Island is all glacial till. The island is as old as the last ice age and was formed during the ice age when the glaciers were prominent in the area. And this is all gravel that was caught up in these dirty icebergs, and as it melted, it formed Malcolm Island. And here we are at Big Lake. And the Finnish word for Big Lake is Isoljärvi, which means literally Big Lake. Now, when I was a kid growing up, there was this huge tree here, and there was a rope that went right across the lake, and you could climb up the tree and swing all the way down and then jump off into the lake. I never did it, but people used to do that. This is a spot where we come and pick salal berries. It's now middle of May, so the salal flowers are just starting to form. So later in the season, towards the end of summer, I'll be coming here to pick. And let's take a walk down to Big Lake, Isoljärvi. And here we are. And it's just a picnic area where people could come and hang out by the lake. And most of the time, there's no one here, as you can see. It's nice and peaceful. And even though it's not a big lake, it is called Big Lake because we are on a tiny island. It's only about 24 kilometers long and about 3 kilometers wide. So for our tiny island, this is a pretty big lake. And here we are at Isoljärvi, Big Lake. Now, if you're going to visit Malcolm Island, you want to go on a hiking trail. This is the exit of the Matoya Heritage Trail. The entrance is up by the water tower in town, and the exit is here closer to Big Lake. And unfortunately, it's not a loop, so if you don't have a ride, it's a long walk either back through the trail itself or down the logging roads to Rough Bay is the closest route to get back into town. So a lot of these places that I want to take you are full-length videos in on themselves. So I will be taking you to Mitchell Bay in an upcoming video. Also down that road to Sam's Place. And we'll also explore Matoya Heritage Trail, and I'll also visit Shields Bay along the Octopus Trail as well. So these are upcoming videos. If you want to follow along my video series while I explore Malcasar and Malcolm Island and the history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video. All right, ciao.